Hey everybody, this is Dream, and we have a small two-game WNBA slate today. Before I get started, you can smash that like and subscribe button. So this will be a short video, so we're just going to go through the four teams, tell you what I think. So we do have Connecticut versus Washington, and then Seattle versus Minnesota. Now, the Connecticut versus Washington game is going to be the more of a lopsided game. It's a 9-point spread in Connecticut's favor. Connecticut's a pretty good defensive team. And they do slow the pace down a little bit, but they're very efficient offensively. So they're going to have the most solid plays on the slate from that perspective. But the Seattle Minnesota game has a 1-point spread. However, I do think this will be a high paced game. So it's definitely a game that you want to hit some guys from. And I think you have some good opportunity there to get some good plays. That said, I do think if I was going to rank the teams in order, Connecticut, Seattle, Minnesota, Washington, with Connecticut having two players I really like, so does Seattle, and then one from Minnesota. And then we have some GPP plays that I'll mention as well. So let's go ahead and get into it here. We're going to start with Connecticut. They're the top overall team, and Alyssa Thomas is by far the best option on this slate. Now, she is a forward. She doesn't score as much as some of the other players listed, but she's got one of the highest fantasy upsides, and she was really good last season. Almost always paid off from the fantasy perspective. She needs about 39 fantasy points to pay off here, and she's got a great opportunity to do that, especially against a weak team like Washington, who's not good defensively either. So I think she's a great play on the slate. Now, the other option from this team is Carrington. Now, she's a cheaper play. Now, she's not a great option, but she's cheap enough to be a good play on the slate. Her role is expanded in a starting role, and she rebounds very well and can score. She's definitely a little bit contrarian today, but she's at $6,700. That gives us some maneuvering. Not only that, but she also can play it. She also plays at the guard position, so she's definitely a decent option on the slate. Looking at the Seattle Storm here, so our top overall play is Mike. Sorry for butchering your name. Also a very fantastic player and has a lot of upside here. Feels priced pretty fairly today. There's only a handful of games last season that she did 3.5x at this thing, so she needs 36 fantasy points to pay off here, and I think she's going to do that tonight as well. She's fairly expensive, but these two, Thomas and Mike, are definitely the top overall plays on the slate in general. I also like Skylar Diggins-Smith as a value play on this one. Now she, looks like a very solid play, better than Carrington. I suspect her price will climb up as she gets more comfortable and back into the swing of things, but she definitely looks like a very solid play on the slate, and she's cheap at $7,000. Now, you could use both Diggins, Smith, and Alyssa Thomas in here as a way to play to start this thing up here. Sorry, I meant Carrington. And so you could kind of start with these four. I think that's a viable strategy today, but there's not a ton of other value plays, so it's going to be a little harder to pay up for all the expensive guys or women so far on this one. But let's look at Minnesota's top overall play here, and it is going to be Collier. She's a good contrarian option off of Mike or off of Thomas. Around the same price range. She has more upside as some of those, but she also has a lower floor. And if she can get the rebound, steals, and blocks that she has that ability to get, then she can definitely pay off here. But she definitely takes a lot of points. She needs 38 fantasy points to pay off. And so she definitely, as she has the highest ceiling, she's also got the lowest floor of the expensive of the over 10,000 or 11,000 plays. So I do like her a lot. I do think there's some good GPP plays today as well. So Smith from Minnesota is probably my favorite GPP play from that team. Definitely carries some risk here, has a low floor, but has a decent ceiling. A little bit pricey though. Same goes for Bonner for Connecticut, a little bit overpriced here, but definitely has the ability to have a really solid game, kind of a contrarian option. Sykes is also interesting for Washington, but only if you think Washington can keep this game close. She's a little risky here, but I actually like Dolson as a decent value play as well. She's dirt cheap at $5,100, and when she's been in the starting role in the past, she actually did pretty well, though she didn't play as a starter last season. But in her first game this year, she did pretty well, and she's still dirt cheap, so she's a GPP play only, but she's definitely a contrarian option that can play at this position. So With that said, guys, thank you for liking, commenting, subscribing. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to leave them below. And have a nice day, guys.